Welcome to Herd Mentality, a podcast from StoneX where we discuss global dairy markets and what's driving them. Remember that the trading of derivatives such as futures, options, and over-the-counter products or swaps may not be suitable for all investors. Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss, and past results are not necessarily indicative of future results. We're recording this on Thursday, April 17th. It's early morning U.S. time. It's evening in Singapore. With me this week is YiFan Li. He's our head of dairy in Asia. And we've seen quite a bit of volatility and movement in the SGX futures. This week, we had a strong GDT event. Technically, the average skim milk powder price was down, but that was driven by UHT skim, which was coming off of a big spike at the prior event. So overall, the whole milk powder pricing was up. Fonterra's medium heat contract 2 skim milk powder was up. Butter and AMF were up. The SGX futures were up strongly ahead of this GDT event, and now it looks like there's still some follow-through buying. So, YiFan, what do you think is driving this strength that we're seeing in Oceania?
I think it's quite interesting in Oceania, because now it's end of the season. So in the past, like 1 month and even to today, there's like very limited supply on GDT, both on GDT and of the GDT, because it just like very simple, it's end of the season. But the demand across China, Southeast Asia, and even Middle East, I would say it's pretty consistent. So given when we look at the supply and demand, we have limited supply and a steady demand. There's a good chance that the market can goes up a little bit. And when we look at the regional breakdown, for different product, North Asia demand in the past 2 auction is pretty consistent. Southeast Asia, Middle East demand on whole milk powder even goes up a little bit. When we're talking to the Southeast Asian and Middle East clients, they're not like really super bullish or like have a surge of strong demand coming into the market, but they basically have a okay demand across from the pre-Ramadan all the way till now. So I guess that's the main reason that they are buying homemade powder on GDT, because that's the only place that they can buy homemade powder from, basically. And the skim milk powder is slightly different story. China in the past 1.5, 2 years, we knows that a lot of the previous skim milk powder buyer, they now changed their recipe, and they're using either local liquid milk or maybe local whole milk powder. And since the end of last year, we realized that some of them even trying local produced skim milk powder, given the price advantage. So it's not a surprise North Asia share and volume on GDT skim milk powder this is like the dropped really a lot. Southeast Asia pretty stable, and Middle East Africa is not a major market for skim. So as long as the China is not coming back to skim market, I don't think that we can see like a huge jump. But quite interesting in the past couple of events that actually EU um like use skim milk powder sold on GDT and bought on GDT, it now is like more significant than the Oceania skim.
Yeah, I think that's mostly a function of just the seasonality in New Zealand's offerings, like you said. Uh, I, I guess I shouldn't say too much because I haven't looked at the hard numbers, but I think the offered volume out of Europe is relatively steady. And then you get those big seasonal swings in the amount of product offered out of New Zealand. So it is an interesting point that this time of year, there's more being offered from Europe than New Zealand. But you mentioned China. Uh, we've seen stronger imports by China. At least the January, February numbers were up from a year ago. We're going to get the March numbers next week. I think those are going to be up as well. first quarter macroeconomic data this week, and one of the pieces of data that we get is their milk production data. And the government says, the National Bureau of Statistics says that milk production in the first quarter inside of China was up 1.7% from last year. And that's lapping over like 5% growth in Q1 of last year. And that growth comes after Q4 being down about 9%. So it's this very odd, sudden increase in Chinese milk production, lapping over growth last year and coming after a couple of quarters of significant declines. What are you hearing about milk production in China and the overall supply and demand in the country?
I think that's the one of the data that released this week confused myself and confused almost everybody, even in China market. When I talk to those top two dairy conglomerates in China, they're saying that the production is pretty stable and they dropped a little bit. Um, they have limited interest to spray dry the extra milk into milk powder because the demand is okay and the production slowed down a little bit. So when I look at the 1.7 growth, I totally confused, to be very frank, where it comes from. And personally, I have like limited trust upon those number. Even though it's like I don't have any like really solid data to support my view or my thoughts. But when we look at the China farm gate milk price, it's stabilized, or it's not like really dropping any further for both the contract price and the off-contract price. When I talk to the China farming group they're saying that the off-contract price even rebounded from a couple of months ago. So, the last 2 weeks we have the annual um the annual report from those listed dairy farming group. And when we dive deep into the numbers, we realize that there is quite interesting that the ratio between the dairy cows and the dairy heifer, the ratio is increased a little bit, which means that they have less heifer now and a little bit more dairy cows compared with last year. Maybe that's they can be the reason that we see some like dairy like China raw milk production stabilized, or maybe, but I still have a difficult time to like believe the China domestic liquid milk production goes up in the beginning of this year.
I struggle with it as well. The explanation that was given, at least for one of the provinces, was higher milk production per cow. But it, to get a 9% drop in Q4, you have to have fewer cows out there. So even if you get the 2 or 3% improvement in production per cow, you're still going to be down.
I think that's something a good point that you mentioned is the yield per cow and the milk solid. I have read from some news couple of weeks ago about the China milk production. It's the yield per cow definitely is strong. I think that's because that the China was trying to learn from US and so they're mainly doing grain fed rather than grass fed, and they're trying to increase the yield um, per cow. That the number I had from some of the report in China, they're saying that a lot of the dairy farm, their yield per cow on an average day has already bypassed the 13 metric ton per day on average.
You said 13,
1 3, yeah, 13
1.3.
metric ton per day.
Yeah.
13, 1 3, yeah.
Huh. Um, have you heard anything about just consumer attitudes and demand inside of China?
I think consumer attitude now is becoming like the story I heard is, and the feeling when I goes back to China is quite different. Because that when we're talking about the macroeconomy, when we're talking about the GDP forecast and all the like governments they're trying to boost the domestic consumption. And when I travel in China a couple of weeks ago, it just feels like quite different. Because that everywhere that when I visit, no matter it's a like a the city famous for tourism or maybe just an average city, I mean the people like it's just everywhere. Like people goes to the restaurant, the people goes for dining, goes for shopping. Uh, they are not definitely they're not choosing like the high end product, but the basic consumption I think is still there. Um, but uh, when China and the US we goes into the trade war, the consumer confidence and the patriotic voices, like I keep hearing, like all of this stuff, people saying that we're gonna support the domestic product, but at the same time, everybody's worried about the economy, how it gonna looks like, how it gonna be in the coming weeks, sorry, coming months, or even the coming year, because that the people thinking that okay, during like Donald Trump's time, there's no way that China and the US will like find a solution. The trade war maybe will continue, or maybe even like will escalate. Maybe we're gonna have the World War III. Nobody knows that what gonna happen in the next day. But at the same time, that if you are like make money in China and you spend in China, everything is pretty affordable from the agri product to the the vehicles. Everything is pretty affordable. I just trying to book my vacation in China. You can get a pretty decent like 4 star, 5 star hotel, like with a cost of just let's say 50 US dollar per night for 5 star hotel. It's just a super affordable. So the people in China, they do not really have a pressure of living. So every day they need the basic stuff they can afford. But the challenge is that yeah, it's really hard to boost for the Chinese citizen to like increase by another maybe like 20, 30 household spending, because that they're already buying what they need. Like it's hard to push for extra. But China is producing like too much stuff, from the agriculture product to the I mean the other consumer product, that they need to find an outlet to export those stuff. So if US is not buying, like putting a high tariff, I don't know, it's like the employment rate definitely will be affected. So in the end, in the long run, I think it will hurt the China domestic demand as well.
With that, we'll leave it there. Thank you for your time today, Yifan.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
The StoneX Dairy team spans the US, EU, Asia, and Oceania, providing market intelligence, analysis, and forecasts through our interactive data platform called StoneX Plus, as well as full service brokerage on the major dairy exchanges, the CME, EEX, and SGX. If you're interested in finding out more about our market intelligence or brokerage services, you can find more information on stonex.com.
This communication is issued in the European Economic Area by StoneX Financial Europe SA, SFE by the SFE presenters noted. StoneX is the trade name used by StoneX Group Inc. and all its associated entities and subsidiaries. StoneX Group Inc. companies provide financial services worldwide through its subsidiaries, including physical commodities, securities, exchange-traded and over-the-counter derivatives, risk management, global payments, and foreign exchange products in accordance with applicable law in the jurisdictions where services are provided. References to certain over-the-counter products or swaps are made on behalf of StoneX Markets, LLC SXM, a member of the National Futures Association NFA and provisionally registered with the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission CFTC as a swap dealer. SXM products are designed only for individuals or firms who qualify under CFTC rules as an eligible contract participant and who have been accepted as customers of SXM. Wealth management is offered through SA Stone Wealth Management Inc., member FINRA/SIPC, and SA Stone Investment Advisors Inc., and SEC Registered Investment Advisor, both wholly owned subsidiaries of StoneX Group Inc. StoneX Financial Limited SFL is registered in England and Wales, company No. 5,616,586. SFL is authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority registration number FRN 446,717 to provide to professional and eligible customers including arrangement, execution and, where required, clearing derivative transactions in exchange-traded futures and options. SFL is also authorized to engage in the arrangement and execution of transactions in certain OTC products, certain securities trading, precious metals trading and payment services to eligible customers. SFL is authorized regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority under the Payment Services Regulations 2017 for the provision of payment services. SFL is a Category 1 ring dealing member of the London Metal Exchange. In addition, SFL also engages in other physically delivered commodities business and other general business activities which are unregulated and not required to be authorized by the Financial Conduct Authority. StoneX Financial Europe SA, SFE is a securities trading firm registered in the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg under Company No. RC Lux B 10821. SFE is authorized by the Luxembourg Ministry of Finance and regulated by the Commission de Surveillance du Secteur Financier Registration No. P0000012 to carry out, inter alia, the activities of investment advisor, portfolio manager, professional acting on own account, broker in financial instruments, and commission agent. StoneX Financial Pte Ltd Co. Reg. No. 2011305988R SFP is regulated by the Monetary Authority of Singapore and is a capital market service licensee for dealing in capital market products, an exempt financial advisor for advising on investment products and issuing or promulgating analyses/reports on investment products, and a major payment institution for cross-border money transfer service. StoneX Financial HK Limited C. No. BCQ 152 SHK is regulated by the Hong Kong Securities and Futures Commission for dealing in futures contracts. StoneX Group Inc. acts as agent for SFL in New York with respect to its payment services business. StoneX Financial Thai Limited SFA Akin 141774727 holds an Australian financial service license and is regulated by the Australian Securities and Investments Commission AFSL 345646. StoneX Securities Co. Limited SSJ Co. Reg. No. 010401047199 is regulated by the Japanese Financial Services Agency as a Type I financial instruments business operator. Kanto Local Finance Bureau FIBO No. 291 is a member of the Financial Futures Association of Japan for dealing and broking FX and FX option transactions, and is a member of the Japan Securities Dealers Association for dealing and broking stock indices and option transactions. The information herein is not a recommendation to trade nor investment research or an offer to buy or sell any financial product. It does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and does not create a binding obligation on any of the StoneX Group Inc. of companies to enter into any transaction with you. You are advised to perform an independent investigation of any transaction to determine whether any transaction is suitable for you. This material should be construed as the solicitation of an account, order, and/or services provided by the FCM division of StoneX Financial Inc., SFI NFA ID 0476094 or StoneX Markets LLC SXM NFA ID 0449652 and represents the opinions and viewpoints of the individual authors or presenters and does not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of SFI or SXM. It does not constitute an individualized recommendation or take into account the particular trading objectives, financial situations, or needs of individual customers. Additionally, this material should not be construed as research material. The trading of derivatives such as futures, options, and over-the-counter products or swaps may not be suitable for all investors. Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss, and you should fully understand the risks prior to trading. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future results. All references to and discussion of OTC products or swaps are made solely on behalf of SXM. All references to futures and options on futures trading are made solely on behalf of SFI. SXM products are intended to be traded only by individuals or firms who qualify under CFTC rules as an eligible contract participant and who have been accepted as customers of SXM. SFI and SXM are not responsible for any redistribution of this material by third parties or any trading decisions taken by persons not intended to view this material. Information contained herein was obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but is not guaranteed as to its accuracy. Contact designated personnel from SFI or SXM for specific trading advice to meet your trading preferences. SFP may distribute analysis/report produced by its respective foreign affiliates within the StoneX Group of companies pursuant to an arrangement under Regulation 32C of the Financial Advisors Regulations. Recipients should contact contact SFP at 656-309-1000 for any matters arising from or in connection with this podcast. No part of this material may be copied or duplicated in any form by any means or redistributed without the prior written consent of StoneX Group Inc. The podcast herein is not directed to or intended for distribution to or use by any person or entity who is a citizen or resident of or located in any locality, state, country, or other jurisdiction where such distribution, publication, availability, or use would be contrary to law or regulation. Copyright 2024 StoneX Group Inc. All rights reserved.